inter-Korean talks involve discussions on sending a renowned art troupe from Pyongyang to perform during the Winter Olympics in South Korea. Next round of talks are scheduled for Wednesday, this time of vice ministerial level one. On regulating the surging cryptocurrency market, the government is determined to push for real name transactions. However, a total ban on exchanges is a subject of thorough discussions. As South Korea experiences back-to-back days of alarming levels of fine dust, the government implements an alternating driving system while providing free public transportations during commuting hours. News Center begins now. It's 8 p.m. here in Korea, coming to you live from our studio in Seoul. This is Arirang News Center. Welcome to our program. I'm Daniel Che. Today's working level talks on North Korea sending musicians and performing artists to next month's Winter Games in the South are now complete. Let's go live to our Ji Myung-gil standing by at Seoul's Unification Ministry. Myung-gil, judging by the massive number of guests we're expecting from up north, it looks like the talks went quite smooth.
You're right, Daniel. The two sides finished talks about 2 hours ago at Tongilgak, a building on the northern side of Panmunjom. Now, the two sides also issued a joint statement just 30 minutes ago about sending a North Korean art troupe to the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. The North says it will send 140 members of the Samjeon Orchestra who will give performances in Seoul and Gangneung in Gangwon Province. The North said it will send an on-site inspection team to check out the venues and the equipment that will be needed for the performances. Therefore, South Korea has promised to provide all the necessary conveniences for the North Koreans to give a successful performance. The South Korean government hopes that the North art performance during the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics will help improve bilateral relations and foster cultural unity between South and the North.
Not to be left out is another subject in which time is of the essence, sending their Olympic athletes across the border. Myung-gil, but that will be a topic to be thoroughly covered in another session, I believe.
You're right, Daniel. Actually, North Korea made a counter-proposal today suggesting the meeting should take place this Wednesday for talks at a vice ministerial level. Now, South Korea actually accepted the counter-proposal and will hold a meeting at the House of Peace on the southern side of Panmunjom. Now, the North needs to finalize on how many athletes they will be sending and what route they'll take to get to Pyeongchang. The North will also be sending a cheering squad, observers, supporters, North Korean journalists, and a taekwondo demonstration team. So there are still a lot of practical issues that need to be discussed. The International Olympic Committee will hold a meeting this Saturday, January 20th, with delegations from North and South Korea to finalize the participation of North Korean athletes. So we presume more working level talks will be scheduled before the big IOC meeting.
All right, Myung-gil, thank you for providing us with the updates. We appreciate it. Staying with the inter-Korean relations, as the two sides will hold another round of talks on Wednesday, let's delve deeper into the upcoming session. Here's a rundown of who's taking part and the potential outcome we can anticipate, courtesy of our Kim Mo-kyun.
The two Koreas have agreed to hold another round of talks about the North's participation in the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics, this time at the vice ministerial level. South Korea's Unification Ministry said South Korea accepted North Korea's counter-proposal to hold talks early on Wednesday on the southern side of the truce village of Panmunjom. The North's suggestion of a time and place came Monday in response to an offer last week by South Korea for higher-level talks. In that initial offer, Seoul said that it would send its Vice Minister for Unification Chun Hae-sung with two other delegates. North Korea responded that it will send a three-member delegation led by Chun Jong-soo, who is vice chairman of the Committee for Peaceful Reunification of Korea, Korea's state agency in charge of inter-Korean affairs. Observers say this could mean North Korea considers its committee the equivalent of South Korea's Unification Ministry. One expert says the North's latest proposal has two purposes. The first is for Pyongyang to arrange the terms of its participation in the Olympics, and second is a rather more strategic goal.
The reason is because North Korea wants to start a propaganda campaign to send a message to the wider world that North Korea would to see peace in this region, as well as make sure that the relationship between two Koreas should be exclusive to the two Koreas and exclude the United States from the issue.
The agenda of the talks would likely focus on the Olympics itself rather than politics. Things like the athletes' travel route, accommodations, and other logistics.
The North's nuclear development will definitely be a non-issue. Since the North's decision to participate just comes in less than a month, they will focus on more practical details, such as forming a unified Korean team.
Kim Mo-gyan, Arirang News.
Seoul's top diplomat will be visiting Canada to attend a high-level international discussions on the situation with North Korea. However, according to our Kwon Jang-ho, the absence of nations like China and Russia has led some to question the meeting's effectiveness.
The inaugural Vancouver Foreign Ministers meeting on security and stability on the Korean Peninsula will open on Tuesday. Co-hosted by the US and Canada, the meeting aims to boost the global effort to find a peaceful resolution to the North Korea nuclear situation. Those invited are being called the Vancouver Group and will include most countries that fought in the Korean War under the UN flag, such as the UK, France and Turkey, as well as South Korea, and other interested parties like India, Japan and Sweden. However, notable absentees include China, Russia and North Korea. It's unclear whether they were formally invited or not, but their absence has caused some to question the effectiveness and purpose of the meeting. Beijing has criticized it, saying that without all the major relevant parties involved, the meeting won't help the situation on the Korean Peninsula and only divide the international community even further. Despite an easing of tensions, with the two Koreas now talking again, the main outcome of the summit is expected to be an agreement to keep the pressure on Pyongyang, with the next step being a focus on trying to stop ships carrying out illicit trade with the regime at sea.
The main point of this Vancouver meeting is to confirm the solidarity among these countries that the maximum pressure on North Korea in the form of the unilateral and the multilateral economic sanctions must remain as a top priority. China and Russia may jump on the ship if they find that international solidarity is the inevitable trend, and it serves as strategic interest to be on board.
A trilateral meeting on the sidelines with South Korea, the US and Japan has been talked about, as has a separate South Korea-US meeting where the ongoing inter-Korean talks would likely be the main point of discussion. Then there's a potentially frosty meeting between the foreign ministers of Seoul and Tokyo on the table as well. South Korea and Japan relations have soured again in recent weeks after the Moon administration condemned the controversial 2015 Seoul-Tokyo agreement on the issue of Japan's wartime sexual enslavement of Korean women. It's not clear what progress could be made from this meeting, but it promises to be a highly charged affair. Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, senior diplomats and defense officials of Seoul and U.S. will get together later this week in Washington to discuss joint deterrence measures against North Korea. It's a meeting of the Extended Deterrence Strategy and Consultation Group, also known as the 2+2 meeting, involving Seoul's Vice Foreign Minister Im Sung-nam, Vice Defense Minister Seo Ju-seok, and their American counterparts Thomas Shannon and David Trachtenberg. The discussions will be in support of the ongoing efforts to resolve the North Korean nuclear issue peacefully. Im is scheduled to meet with other White House officials as well during his 5-day trip, including Deputy Secretary of State John Sullivan. He'll also visit New York to meet with the UN chief Antonio Guterres. Delegates of U.S. Congress visiting South Korea met with the country's Joint Chiefs of Staff chair to discuss Seoul-Washington alliance and, of course, Pyongyang. One of them pointed out diplomatic efforts to talk with the regime should be for denuclearization and backed by ironclad alliance. Oh Jung-hee has the highlights from that meeting.
Dialogue between Seoul and Pyongyang should be backed by a strong South Korea-U.S. alliance, and the ultimate objective has to be denuclearization. That's what visiting U.S. Senator Tommy Duckworth told reporters Monday after meeting with Chairman of South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff, Chung Kyung-do.
The military can do their job and hold the peace one more day to allow diplomacy to move forward. I think it is important to allow diplomatic talks to continue. But those talks cannot be successful if there is not a strong, ironclad alliance between our two militaries, one that has been there for decades.
She stressed diplomatic efforts are important to keeping talks going with North Korea, and in that sense, Pyongyang's participation in the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympics is meaningful.
I think that whatever we can do to continue talks, as long as it is clear that those talks must involve a denuclearized peninsula, is important. That means that we should allow the diplomats to do their jobs, and I think that the participation of the North Korean athletes is a positive sign.
At Monday's meeting, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs told her and a congressman traveling with her, Ruben Gallego, that the peaceful hosting of the Olympics and a lowering of regional tensions will contribute to the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula and help bring peace and stability to the region. Both U.S. lawmakers promised maximum support for Washington's security commitment to Seoul and Pyongyang's denuclearization. Both sides reaffirmed the two countries' ironclad alliance and firm military posture. 오정희, Arirang News.
President Moon Jae-in met with the Prime Minister of Mongolia, Okhna Khurelsuhu, to discuss ways to upgrade the two countries' bilateral ties. The Liberal leader acknowledged the historical, cultural, and geographical similarities Seoul and Tashkent share, and how they pursue the common goals of democracy, market economy, and bringing peace to Northeast Asia.
그런 공동의 가치와 또 공동의 목표를 기반으로 양국 간의 경제 통상 관계에서 실질적인 협력을 더 발전시키고 또 인적 교류를 더 확대시켜 나가서 양국 간의 포괄적 동반자 관계를 더 발전시켜 나가고 더 격상시켜 나가기를 희망합니다.
Such efforts will also include the nation providing an additional $500 million to the Korea-Mongolia Economic Development Cooperation Fund. The visiting PM in return vowed continued support for President Moon's initiatives to resolve the North Korean nuclear issue peacefully and called the upcoming Winter Olympics a significant first step in bringing stability to the region. The head of the National Assembly called for efforts to speed up talks on amending Korea's constitution. For the first time this year, a special parliamentary committee convened to hash out the details of the revision process. Cha Sang-mi has the latest from the domestic political arena.
Hurry up and reach a consensus. That's what the Assembly Speaker Chung Se-kyun urged the Special Parliamentary Committee to do during a press conference on Monday, so that they can submit a motion for an agreed constitutional revision by the mid-March deadline, in time for a referendum along with the local elections in June. He reminded rival parties to speed up the discussions on the matter before the government takes over the revision process, as President Moon Jae-in had warned them it would do in his New Year press conference last week. Recollecting that this year marks the 70th anniversary of the establishment of the Constitution, the Speaker reiterated that the constitutional revision is the biggest task for the 20th National Assembly, and that it should be the Assembly to retool the Basic Law. He also highlighted the Assembly's efforts to include voices from all walks of life while preparing the amendment over the past year. And to reach political consensus, the Assembly's Special Committee on the issue held its first meeting the same day, with each party filling leadership positions within the committee and exchanging greetings. Yet the meeting saw the parties clash both over the content of the constitutional amendments and the timing. While the ruling Democratic Party seeks to hold a referendum on constitutional revision in tandem with the upcoming elections, the main opposition Liberty Korea Party is taking a very different standpoint. The Liberty Korea Party criticized President Moon for laying down the direction and timing of the revision and argued that holding the referendum at the same time as the local elections could politicize the issue. The center-left People's Party argued that President Moon's address last week should not be seen as a set of fixed guidelines, and also called on the Liberty Korea Party to take a more active role in the process. The ruling party only holds 121 of the parliament's 299 seats, so will need to cooperate with the other parties as the bill needs support from 2/3 of the legislators in order to be put up for a referendum. Cha Sang-mi, Arirang News.
Recent government response to the cryptocurrency frenzy came as a bit of a shock. Now it's confirmed drastic moves like banning exchanges will only be decided after deep discussions on the matter. As they work to take preventive steps to curb speculation, some experts weighed in with their takes in terms of necessary changes. Lee Ji-won shares with us the various views on the matter.
The Korean government's announcement Monday wasn't the blow many crypto traders had feared, a ban on virtual currency exchanges. Rather, officials said there hasn't been a decision yet.
Any plan to shut down the exchanges, which is one possible way to curb speculation, as suggested by the Justice Minister last month, will be decided after thorough discussions and coordination in the government.
The government also said that it'll continue to push forward with a plan to require investors' real names in cryptocurrency trading, and that price manipulation and other crimes will be punished severely. But the government also showed a change in tone, saying it'll invest in research and development of blockchain technology, the computer code that makes cryptocurrency unique. This follows a number of announcements by the government in the past month amid cryptocurrency's exponential rise. Korea is now the third largest Bitcoin trading market in the world after Japan and the US. And experts say there are reasons for the government's concerns.
Koreans are investing in the virtual currency for the wrong reasons. They don't see it as a new form of currency that could make up for the shortcomings of the ones we have now, but as a way to earn huge sums of money in a short amount of time. And with the current security level of the exchanges and the development of blockchain system, it's a very risky investment to make.
Despite the huge potential blockchain technology could have in the future, the experts said it's still in the development stages, and that the relatively weak security of the crypto exchanges compared to banks make them more prone to cyber attacks.
The government is doing a good job in warning the public of a possible fall in the market. And having seen a lot of potential in the technology, the government should step up investments in blockchain technology and nurture companies to overcome the current shortcomings.
The expert added it's also vital for the public to see virtual currency not as a speculative tool, but as a potential currency for the future. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
A number of government ministries laid out their plans to allocate this year's budget to provide greater support to small and mid-sized enterprises. It's designed to help turn their ideas into business models, as well as fostering innovative industries and creating new jobs. Kim Ji-yeon has the details.
The Ministry of SMEs and Startups said Monday that it'll inject more than $13 million throughout this year to boost research and development by small and medium-sized companies, particularly those engaged in sectors that are crucial to the so-called Fourth Industrial Revolution.
The amount to aid SMEs do business overseas is about 4% less compared to last year's, which was slightly higher due to the execution of the government's supplementary budget bill for job creation.
The Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy also plans to pour in more than $18.8 million for the next 5 years on entities engaged in its 5 major new innovative industries, such as electric and autonomous vehicles, Internet of Things, energy, biohealth, and semiconductors and displays. Companies selected will be provided with quality consultative services by the state-run Korea Intellectual Property Service Center involving patents, marketing of products, and services overseas. Also, the Korean Intellectual Property Office says it will dedicate this year's budget of nearly $18.6 million, which is up by more than 11% from last year's, to SMEs that are considered crucial to creating new tech or innovative ICT services. The IP office says during the 5 years it has supported SMEs until 2017, it was able to help Korea reap economic benefits 6 times the amount the country had originally invested on helping SMEs. Business entities that are interested can visit each of the ministry's websites this month to apply. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
With another day of high levels of the particulate matter expected in Seoul, the government made some key decisions with the citizens' health in mind. Drivers were encouraged to leave their vehicles at home and opt for public transport, as services are free of charge during rush hours. Lee Jung-yeon zooms in on the measures.
For the first time ever, commuters in Seoul were exempt from paying public transportation fees on Monday morning. This is a part of the Seoul government's emergency measures to deal with fine dust levels that are expected to be significantly high on Monday and Tuesday. The emergency measures are implemented when fine dust levels go above 50 micrograms per cubic meter, and Seoul saw levels of 57 as of 4 p.m. Sunday.
The fee waiver provides an incentive for people to take public transport, and it also raises awareness of the severity of the air pollution. The emergency measures may be a foreign concept to the public now, but we're hoping they'll catch on over time.
The alternating driving system, which asks drivers to take turns using their vehicles based on whether they have an odd and even-numbered license plate, was also adopted, and more than 300 public parking lots were closed.
The financial aspect will definitely motivate more people to take public transport, and I believe these small efforts will take us in the right direction.
I'm not sure how much it will change, but I guess even one less car on the road would help. My daughter has asthma, and I'm a cancer patient myself, so fine dust is a worry for me personally.
Medical experts say fine dust can affect anyone, regardless of health or age.
Those with weak immune systems, such as children or seniors, would be affected the most, but even those who are healthy would feel lethargic when exposed to high levels of fine dust.
The expert adds that many studies now show that those living in areas with high levels of fine dust have shorter lifespans, and that fine dust is linked to all types of health problems, not just limited to the lungs. This current rise in fine dust levels is mainly attributed to the wind coming from the northwest and the increased pollution from heating systems in China, where people are trying to cope with plummeting temperatures. With high levels of fine dust projected until Wednesday, commuters are advised to wear masks when outdoors and to keep to the alternate days driving recommendations to reduce pollution on the road. Lee Jung-yeon, Arirang News.
Elsewhere around the world, the Peruvian government continues search and rescue efforts to help those affected by Sunday's massive quake. Seoul's foreign ministry, meanwhile, received no reports of any South Koreans suffering from injuries or being killed by the natural disaster. Jo Sung-min, give us the updates.
A massive 7.1 magnitude earthquake struck the coast of southern Peru on Sunday local time. Officials said military planes have delivered emergency supplies, including tents and mattresses, to people who are left homeless in the wake of the earthquake. Peru's National Emergency Operations Center said aftershocks have caused more than 170 houses to collapse, affecting at least 730 families. Rural towns such as Akari and Yauca in the Arequipa region were heavily damaged, as they are located within 36 kilometers from the quake's epicenter. Previously, the government reported 2 fatal victims, but the death toll has been retracted to 1. The quake just comes days before Pope Francis' visit to the nation. Peru's Prime Minister Mercedes Arau said the natural disaster will not interrupt the Pope's visit whatsoever.
We know that the Holy Father will take note of this and will send his condolences to the families, but it doesn't affect the plan of the Pope's visit at all.
Meanwhile, Korea's foreign ministry announced on Monday that no Korean nationals were reported missing or injured following the earthquake. Jo Sung-min, Arirang News.
Time to turn to Michelle Park at the Weather Center for the updates you need. Michelle, the capital is still seeing high levels of fine dust. Is it going to clear up tonight?
Well, Daniel, the air quality still looks poor in the capital, and with smog constantly flowing in through the night, it's expected to bring the dust levels even higher and spreading it further across the peninsula. Now, rain is expected to wet the country tomorrow, and in fact, quite a bit of it, of up to 40 millimeters, are expected over the southern coast, washing away the dust down there, but it won't be enough for the central region, so hang on to your mask along with your umbrellas tomorrow. And Seoul is expected to begin the morning at -1 degree Celsius, while Daegu starts at -1 as well, and Busan at 7 degrees. It won't be as much warm as today, with Seoul rising up to 3 degrees, while Gwangju and Busan making up to 9 and 12 degrees. The rest of the week will remain comfortable and free of rain, but over on Friday, it will get colder again. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
That's it for tonight's edition of Arirang News Center. Wherever you may be tuning in from, thank you for staying with us.